Welcome again to I Love Black People. We've been blessed to have an incredible brother. I'm definitely a person who's been transplanted, landed in by going to Howard, and there's some brothers and sisters who got their roots deeply embedded in DC, and we're so grateful for the chocolate city that you started or helped develop, and then of course it did go a different way, but I got an amazing brother on the day, brother Rob Thorne. Thank you for joining I Love Black People.
This is I Love Black People Radio on H.U.R. Voices, Sirius XM, channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are.
Thank you so much, Sinclair. It's a pleasure to be here. Excited about the conversation.
Well, look, give them the background. I always tell my guests that I'm not the best intro person, so, I probably already botched it, but I just give them a little background so they know, what I know already, plus some things that they may need to know just because you've been doing so much lately.
So I've been blessed to have been born and raised in Washington, D.C. I left for about 13, 14 years and came back in 2007. As you mentioned, I am a Howard man, proud graduate of Howard University, particularly the School of Engineering, mechanical engineer, back in the 90s. Very exciting time to be on Howard's campuses. And I went into the automotive industry, right, directly following Howard, and worked in both vehicle engineering design and manufacturing. I've worked on race car teams. I've built, some of the most exciting, legendary, all-terrain vehicles known to man, be it Jeep Wrangler, Jeep Grand Cherokee. Have had active roles in both vehicle engineering and manufacturing on both sides. And then because Chrysler sponsored me or took me in, they paid for my master's at the University of Michigan and received a master's in industrial systems engineering, which bode me well. I mean, those teachings I find to be very practical and relevant in everyday life, everyday management, decision-making, quite frankly, in terms of probability and statistics, quality management, lean management. These are all practices that I still leverage today in what I do. And I've leveraged them in every phase of my career. I love Detroit, let me say that. But having grown up in DC, I'm used to a little bit more sunlight. So I was always fighting to get back to the East Coast, and came back to the East Coast to obtain my MBA from the Wharton School, class of 2000. It was a very relevant and revolutionary time, I think, in this country. Spent a lot of time meeting great people from all around the world, and it broadened my perspective. Now, that was pretty much the beginning of how I got to where I am now. I started immediately following business school, I started a software company in New York City. It was venture backed. It went well. We built software for stadiums and arenas that, it's probably not novel now, but back in 2001, it was pretty novel that you could purchase souvenirs, hot dogs, beer, you name it, from your Palm Pilot, if anybody remembers that, from your Palm 7 and your compact iPack. These things were the the fancy executive toys of the time. And we thought that mobile commerce was the next wave of the .com boom. And we jumped headfirst in with what was then FanLink Networks. And so we launched down at the Louisiana Superdome, and before it became the site for the New Orleans Pelicans, they call it the Baby Dome down there. So we operated out of those two spaces until 9/11 happened. So we met all of these technical milestones, went through everything to provide a great service. And I think we had all the fanfare of the time. I mean, you name it, all the great press and all that good stuff. But sometimes you learn that you may be ahead of your time. It may not be the right time. And somebody might have a different idea. And so we found out all of those things with 9/11. And at that time, venture houses stopped backing entrepreneurial endeavors, right? So if you were a Series A, which is the series of financial injection that we were in, then you weren't going to get a Series B, right? And so Series A pretty much signifies sort of proof of concept for venture-backed businesses. And then as you progress down B, C, D, and so on, you're moving towards break even and so forth. So we hadn't yet broken even, so we were expendable. And it's a great learning experience, to deconstruct a company. It wasn't easy to go through emotionally or personally, but I would say, being blessed to be able to look back at it. I took some lessons now some lessons then that I leverage now, during this COVID epidemic, right? Or pandemic, rather.
You just really hit something, right? Because I want you to get to what you're getting done now. But this engineering journey grows vicious. Humbly, I have to say that.
Yeah.
And then even talking about the first .com bust and how it burst in connecting it to 9/11. Like literally, I remember, and even here in DC, right, there was a big Northern Virginia, there was a lot of those warehouses where they had all that cloud stuff really starting to build up. And all of this stuff converged. I mean, I think it's an interesting point. And then resiliency that you're alluding to, before I interrupted. So please, talk about the pandemic.
I love this subject. Let's go.
Humbly, I think the point you just made about the pandemic and being resilient is probably super helpful, and your ability to connect that to past activities and things and connect it to current affairs. What do you see? How do we manage this pandemic using what you've learned in the past?
Yeah. So I'm a very practical person. If I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, then I'm not going for it. So in this regard, back in 9/11, our offices were actually on Wall Street, Lower Manhattan. So we were directly affected. It was the only day during the time of the company where I decided to bicycle into work. And so I bicycled over the Brooklyn Bridge into work to come down onto Park Row, if you know Manhattan well. And I'm looking up at the inlet of Park Row, and I'm thinking like a weather chopper crashed into the World Trade. And then later, and so I sat there, had a different mentality at the time, which was all business, all go, all the time. And I said, okay, at some point I have to get into the office because we were going to launch at the Superdome like the next Sunday, which, oh yeah, by the way, was the first Sunday that was ever canceled in the history of the NFL. So, and that effectively was the death knell of the business, because the next home game was like 3 weeks later. And, you know, I kind of knew it was the beginning of the end. Like we were burning through the cash too quickly, and conversations for Series B were moving along. But after those towers were hit, all of that ceased. And that was effectively the start of let's finish the season, the New Orleans Saints season down at the Superdome, in order to say that we did it, claim our wins, but let's not harm all of the relationships that we had established to get to this point. So we finished strong, without issue, in good standing, but essentially ran out of cash, and we ended up having to sell off everything, all assets, you know. And actually, a great Howard brother was one of our, I won't say his name, but he was a great Howard brother. He was a principal donor, if you will, or investor rather, in the company at the time. And 9/11, I was in the office, 40 Exchange Place, and he came and got me. And this Howard brother, I know you know him. He's a Howard engineer, and he has background with NSA, so he's kind of like a spook. And he came and got me, and like we were on foot all the way up to 57th and Lex. But anyway, I digress. Great brother. That was the start of the end. I had to learn how to unwind the company, right? Which I can appreciate now, because I know that there are ways that things should work and have to work in order to be successful. And, you know, praise God, we've been in our current business going on 11 years, and it's been the most successful business I've ever been a part of, you know. And so some of the learnings or the teachings, you know, from that time are, if you get knocked down, like, don't focus on being knocked down. Think immediately about what's next. And if you've been knocked on your butt as an entrepreneur or as a career professional enough, then you know that the time that you waste crying in your milk could be time better spent getting on to the next successful, profitable, you name it, endeavor.
No, I think what you're saying, because I remember going bankrupt in 2003 with the cleaners. I was like, damn clean. I don't think we're not supposed to say any words like that, so I'm not going to do that. But I felt like that, like literally when you said it, I like, bruh, well, you got to pick yourself up, bruh. That is, God, please, man.
It's easier said than done. That's not lost on me. But if you realize, as I have, that I'm probably more of an entrepreneur than a corporate professional, then, you know, then you're going to sign up again and potentially, I mean, we know this metric, right? You know, 8 to 9 out of 10 businesses fail, right? So the odds are not in your favor. So you're going to learn some lessons along the way, and you have to have thick skin and be prepared to go through that.
Go ahead.
Right. And so that was 2003 when we shut everything down, you know, when all was said and done. And, you know, I didn't start this successful business until 2011. In between 2003 and 2011, I had looked at food and beverage, right? As an opportunity. I had looked at trading as a business, like trading platforms as a business. I have looked at real estate sales, real estate facility management. These are all, you know, I learned something in each case, right? Coming from the venture-backed opportunity with FanLink, I realized, hey, you really can't play in this game if you are not financially set, right? Because people will play games on the venture capital side to take more of your company. If you don't have the backing to say, yeah, we're not doing that. And if the repercussions are, whatever the repercussions are, you're able to manage that under your own head of steam, and you're not dependent on the check from, however much money you raised or whatever. So all of these things, have become a part of my iterative process of recalibration. From venture to venture, I learned something. I learned what businesses are not for me.
Go ahead.
And I've learned that in the business that we're in now. When we started, we had these different ventures that we were interested in. Because I work with my wife now. I always say we, but at the time, as an individual, Rob Thorne, I went through these things and I learned things in each case, and have kind of gotten us to the point where, okay, I kind of understand what levers need to be pulled because I've seen it before. It's different when you learn it in a classroom or you're doing business cases in business school and all these things. But when it becomes hardwired when you experience the downfall, right? And so I look at, the great opportunities afforded to me, and we became reconnected when I moved back to DC, because one of the true interests that I have is public education reform, and I did that in New York City on many levels. One, supporting after-school tutoring programs within New York City Board of Education construct, and then also started a charter school in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Right. So these were things that I did like on the side, like after work. Serving New York City Board of Education, that was mainstream. That was during 9 to 5, and I worked with some great people in doing that. But as I moved away from that, I still had the interest because of all of the impact that education has had on my life. And then, when we look forward to, the charter school, all these sorts of recognitions brought me back home to DC, right? And so I was recruited by Executive Office of the Mayor Adrian Fenty, whom we all know very well. I had the pleasure to work for him. I came back during that time when he took public education reform head on. He hired Michelle Rhee. I was hired to transition 4 district agencies into what is now called the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, which is DC's official state education agency, which it had not had before. So all of that was sort of rolled under DC Public Schools. But that was entrepreneurial. I brought an engineering and operations bend to that transition. That transition went well, and we did amazing things. I think I was recognized by the mayor's office and got pulled into other important initiatives, right, during the mayor's term. So those opportunities, I didn't envision that I envisioned being an entrepreneur again, but I didn't envision in what way or what I would do.
And I love how you said the engineering, the scientific method, some of the fundamentals, both of us being mechanical engineers, just that methodology, that problem solving orientation, and not philosophical or just political.
Yeah. I think you're hitting it right. One of the things that I think, and I'm not an education guy, right? But I recognize the value that education has for Black and brown youth who may be starting at the base of the mountain, right? And so it is the equalizer. It's been an equalizer for me. Like I live that, right? So I've narrated that story. I've already been there, been through it. And so I want to support others to experience what I've experienced.
So then
Right.
let's talk about that experience now as we get close to the end. I don't want to even, I don't want to end off. Yeah, no. Look, humbly, hey, bro, Rob, this is awesome, bro. And look, I didn't even know the 9/11, like that whole bit, bro. You just made this thing super timely. So, but humbly, to have you on and not share which the glorious and wonderful things that, again, as a phoenix out of the fire that you've been able to make happen. It would be a loss not to talk about what you're doing right now, and prayerfully know that people can somehow be supportive of what your work or have you engage in some of these solutions that you've been able to put together. So what you got? What you got?
Yeah. So as I was mentioning, on the heels of the of that experience and being able to work with within the executive office of the mayor, I established some great relationships, and I really didn't understand that. But at the end of the mayor's term, I launched public performance management, right? And that's when his time ended, that's when public performance management started, and the name of the company is a misnomer. In the going on 11 years of public performance management, we've done like maybe 3 performance management engagements. But because we believe in performance management, in my opinion, my humble opinion, 2 key components to performance management are both technology and finance, right? And so they work together to make organizations lean and mean. So automation finds ways to enhance in people's work and make them more productive. And finance is finance. We all know that money makes the world go round, and it has its special place. It doesn't rule everything, but it's very significant. So they work together to create performance management. Public performance management provides IT products and services to state, local, and soon to be federal agencies. We've been doing that successfully, as I mentioned, for going on 11 years. When we started out, we tried to do everything under the sun. And so we've in the past, we've done marketing, we've sold mail machines. I mean, we did everything because of my experience. I don't romanticize entrepreneurship in the way that what I would call a neo would, right? To me, having a business means that the business is there tomorrow, and if the business needs to be there tomorrow, we need to pay the bills today. So we did all of that through the grace of God. We've been able to gain revenues, produce revenues that we've been able to plow back into the company to where we're more focused on not doing everything, but doing things that are more in line with what our philosophy is and what our ethos is and what's important to us. So we focus on, yeah.
What's your typical client? Because I know we have a lot of management types, that listen to this on H.U.R's XM station all over the world, all over the country with Sirius XM. Who would be like, hey, this is our sweet spot, definitely.
So our sweet spot, I mean, our key customers, we work with public safety. I mean, you name it, Office of the Attorney General, Metropolitan Police Department, Fire and EMS. We work with the Health and Human Services agencies, Department of Human Services, Departments of Health, Departments of Behavioral Health, on and on and on. The beauty of being an IT product and service provider is that you are in a support role, right? And so that cuts across all organizations. There are very few organizations in this day and time that don't have a need for IT products, laptops, workstations, desktops, monitors, headsets, docking stations, servers, cloud subscriptions. We sell software. I mean, all of the major software brands, we sell them. And, you know, now during COVID, this has been, I mean, it's been a very aggressive time for us. I mean, last year during COVID was actually the second best year in the history of the company. And so these are things that people want and need, and particularly in the way that society is recalibrating going to work. IT is even more important. These IT hardware products are even more important. And I'm thankful that we've gone about our business with integrity. Vast amount of our business is word of mouth. And proof is in the pudding. Like, our customer base has grown. We do business with over 35 agencies. And, you know, some of those agencies include DC Public Schools. We do business with 90 of the 115 or so schools within DCPS. And I like to say that we have personal relationships with all of our customers.
And I definitely appreciate you joining us and the sharing too much that love and the love for us and the love for your native.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, man. No, humbly. All right, and as we always leave this, I am because we are, and thank you, Rob, for making me even better than I am. Thank you, Rob.
This is I Love Black People Radio on H.U.R. Voices, Sirius XM Channel 141. I Love Black People is more than a radio show. I Love Black People is a call from our ancestors to protect us from racial profiling all across the world. Go to iloveblackpeople.com and become a member today. Membership empowers you to live fearlessly and protect Black people globally from racism and xenophobia. Join us today and become a member of our global network with an online global green book with Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses to protect you and your community. Membership is free, and with you, we will become 10 million strong worldwide. I am because we are. Special thanks to Banneker Communities.